We don't have any other comments. Thank you very much, Professor Ambrosini, and we move forward to Michèle COECK. Michèle, the next speaker, will address the improved expertise in radiation protection, nuclear chemistry, and geological disposal. It is the holds a PhD in physics from the Catholic University in Leuven and a postgraduate from the same university in science and communication and education. She has over 10 years experience as a researcher in material science and radiation protection and about 20 years experience in education and training matters. She is currently the head of SCKCEN Academy for Nuclear Science and Education, dealing with all aspects of knowledge transfer and competence building in the nuclear R&D topics of the Belgian Nuclear Research Center. Michèle?
Thank you very much, Daniela, for the introduction. Thank you also to the organizers for inviting me here and explaining to you the education and training projects that deal with improved expertise in radiation protection, nuclear chemistry, and geological disposal. Of course, to prepare the presentation, I received the input from the co-authors that you see there on the first slide, and actually these persons are also the coordinators of the projects that I will discuss in this presentation. All of us, and I guess also you in the room, share the same concern, and actually it's a global concern, and it was also addressed by Walter. And that concern has to do with having sufficient and also adequate resources for, first of all, the current and future safe operation of the existing nuclear facilities, but also to develop new nuclear technologies and applications that can assure the well-being, the future well-being of our society. Now, to cover the need for those resources, first of all, we need to have people. So we need to attract people to the different domains of nuclear applications, and then we need to make sure that these people have the right competences, meaning the right knowledge, right skills, and right attitudes to perform their typical job in nuclear, in the typical nuclear area that they will work in. How can we attract people? Well, one of the things we can do is provide them with correct and objective general information about what nuclear actually is, what the basics of nuclear are, what the different applications fields are, how they contribute to your daily life. How do we generate knowledge? Of course, by doing research and also by educating the students. And then afterwards, these students need to develop really specialized specific competences, and that we can do through further education and training. Now, in this presentation, I will only focus on education, training, and also some actions regarding the general awareness, increase of general awareness through information and communication. And why we did that, of course, is to prevent a decline in expertise and to meet the necessary future demands when it comes to having a suitable workforce for nuclear in general. In this presentation, I will not talk about nuclear in general. I will focus on three domains: nuclear chemistry, geological disposal, and radiation protection, and about projects that deal with that: CINCH in nuclear chemistry, Petrus in geological disposal, and then the Anatrap series of projects, CONCERT and the EAGLE project, who are more in the field of radiation protection. Let's start first with radiochemistry. The first project, CINCH 1 and 2, actually they ran from 2010 to 2016. They aimed at mitigating the skill-based deficits within nuclear chemistry, specifically at master's and doctoral level. So they were addressed towards students, and they aimed, of course, also to meet the decline of the number of qualified staff in that area. Both projects were built around the SET approach for training. For those of you who are not very familiar with that SET approach, it's very easy, very logical. First, you make an analysis of the needs that you have in a certain domain. Then you design a curriculum that meets those needs. You develop the course material. You actually give the course, and you evaluate afterwards how everything went. Of course, to feed again the next cycle that I just described and optimize your training program. The first project, CINCH 1, dealt specifically with the first three phases. CINCH 2 focused on the implementation and the evaluation. Concrete results, you find them more information, of course, on the several websites, and I think each project also has a poster here at this conference. But what these projects mainly did was they optimized the curriculum for the master and the PhD level in nuclear and radiochemistry. They gave 3 specialized courses, they produced a wiki, and they also moved and made some research towards introducing a quality label for the master in nuclear and radiochemistry. Of course, these were 2 pilot projects, let's say. Their courses were followed by about 20 students. There is a follow-up of these projects. 20 is not so much, so hopefully there will be more, and therefore they have created MEET-CINCH. MEET-CINCH, that project is currently still running. The idea is that they will safeguard and improve and extend the results of the previous CINCH project, that they will proactively bring the results achieved so far to the end user, that they significantly contribute to attract new talents and increase the nuclear chemistry awareness by developing a MOOC. We already discussed that method. And they also applied another pedagogical method, that is, they investigated on the applicability of the flipped classroom concept in nuclear chemistry teaching. Currently they are halfway, and after 18 months the teaching concepts developed and tested. There's a pre-version of a course that was specifically designed for regulators that is evaluated, and the final version is under development. So that's for radiochemistry. When we move to geological disposal, the Petrus projects were a series of 3 projects. They run from 2006 to 2018, and during those 12 years, Petrus built up a network of trust, mutual support and knowledge transfer amongst the European University, the research centers and the waste management organizations. Petrus started also by doing an assessment of the needs. They contacted and worked closely together with the end users there. And they established a basket of knowledge, a lot of information that students would need to fulfill these needs of the end user and of the employers. They implemented a European master's curriculum through collaboration of different European universities. They also pioneered very heavily, I must say, on the ECFET principles. ECFET was already explained by Walter, so it stands for the European Credit System for Vocational Education and Training. The system implements that you describe very detailed a job profile, what a certain job means, what you have to do in a certain nuclear field. Together with that job profile, you have also a training program that the person needs to carry out, and the learning outcomes of that training program were by Petrus also in very detail described for jobs in geological disposal. Next to that, Petrus also organized some PhD events to bring together the young academics and the professionals, so they already bonded with the students and their future employers. In total, the project is finished now. In total, during the duration of the 3 projects, about 200 students have participated to Petrus activities. Petrus developed in total 130 hours of courses, and they have prepared 4 of those PhD events. But they ensured the continuation of their work, and that's why they integrated all the Petrus activities now in the European Nuclear and Education Network in order to guarantee continuation beyond the project duration. Moving to radiation protection, there are 3 projects that I want to discuss with you in this field. First of all, there is the European Joint Project Concert. It started in 2015. Basically, it's a scientific project. It's not a pure education and training project. It's a scientific project. It interlinks research in all areas of application of ionizing radiation throughout Europe. And it's developing a joint European strategic research agenda in the field of radiation protection. And that SRA is expected to be multidisciplinary in science, tailored to the societal needs also, make full use of newly gained knowledge in all the disciplines of life sciences and humanities, and, very important in the frame of this presentation, also fully integrate education and training, especially for the young generation and the students. The aim is, of course, to build up and maintain the competences that are needed in radiation protection now and in the future. Going into detail specifically on the work package that deals with these education and training things, what are the main results up to now? Because, as I mentioned, the project is still running. CONCERT provides support to junior scientists. They offer them travel grants. The amount is only 10,000 per year. It's not to be, if you compare it with over 1 million in ENN, of course it's not a lot. Nevertheless, 59 grants, 59 students could profit from that grant, and these students were spread over 16 member state countries. The project also makes regular calls to course organizers. You can make or give in your description of your course and receive support for that as well. Up to now, almost 50 courses were funded, and to those courses, 850 students participated, for free then, of course. A third very important, I think, aspect where CONCERT is working on is they try to coordinate the collaboration also between the different networks that deal with in the broad area of radiation protection. I have mentioned there Eurados, who is dealing with dosimetry, the ALARA network, NERIS, who is more into emergency preparedness, Alliance, which gathers the radioecologists and so on, UTERP, not to forget, who is the European platform for education and training in radiation protection. All these platforms and networks and groups are doing things in education and training, and many of them are actually doing the same thing. So what we want to achieve is that at least we know of each other, what we are doing, and how we can share the results and the objectives and also a little bit our resources to make sure that we are more efficient in this area. And then career development also in CONCERT. At several occasions of the Melody platform, which is the platform for radiation protection, several Melody meetings, and also at other European conferences, there are initiatives taking to bring the junior scientists and the more mature scientists, more experienced scientists together and have them interacting on the scientific topic and also on the work that can be done later on in their career. The Anatrap Project, another project or a series of projects that dealt with the theme, or that was situated in the theme of radiation protection. In fact, there we also had a series of 3 projects, actually more dealing with policy and implementation of education and training than with development of, again, additional courses. And a very strong basis for that project was the Council Directive of '96 when we started, and later on its revision that was published in 2013. While the projects were evolving, we gradually focused more on professionals and not so much on students anymore, although in the beginning one of the first realizations that we could present was the development of a European Master in Radiation Protection. We started up with a consortium of universities who contributed to that master. First edition was given in 2007, and since then 200 students have followed successfully that program. The project is now flying on its own. It's still there. It is led by the colleagues of ANSTN in Grenoble. Another realization of Anatrap, and in fact that's how we started, we made a European survey in 2005 already, a long time ago, but it was necessary to do that, on the national needs and capabilities when it came to education and training in radiation protection. Which country had what was needed also, what was already in place, what still had to be established. how did the legislation work? How was a radiation protection expert, a radiation protection officer embedded in the legal national frameworks? And how was the recognition working? That was important for us because we proposed an Anatrap training scheme for that specific job profile of a radiation protection expert, of which actually the definition is in those basic safety standards. And the idea was that that training scheme could serve as a basis for mutual recognition, meaning that if you would be doing the job and being recognized in country A, and you move to country B, that you should not have to do all over again all your education and again go through sometimes long and administrative recognition procedures, but that could be shortened a little bit. Of course, we developed and implemented pilot courses to demonstrate the feasibility of that concept, and I think we also delivered some important contributions to the policy guidelines and to the basic safety standards, in that sense that we suggested new definitions for an RPO and an RPE, which were replacing the rather confusing definition of qualified expert that was in the edition of 96. The third project, last Anatrap project, started when the revision of the basic safety standards was published. So we could actually work on writing a guidelines document for implementing the programs, the education and training programs for RPs and RPOs. This helped a lot of member states. Of course, I realized that the well-established member states with strong legislation and already well-established and old legislation, they did not need so much help anymore. But for the new member states, we have discussed with several people saying that, okay, please inform us, what is the best approach, which return of experiences can you give us, what went well, what went not so well in other countries, and how can we benefit from all those returns of experience to optimize the way we make our legislation and the way we introduce our education and training programs for radiation protection professionals. We again worked on the training schemes, not only for the professionals in radiation protection, but also for the trainers themselves. Actually, Anatrap was the first project that also gave attention not only to the learner, but also to the one who has to teach. And you might think that's obvious, but it's not so obvious, because a lot of the teachers are fantastic experts, but you also need the best didactic skills also when you are teaching or lecturing. So there were some challenges to overcome, let's say. We also built a capacity building platform. Basically, that's a nice word to say that we have a website, a UTOP website, where you can go to and find all relevant information when it comes to legislation and education and training for radiation protection. And there's also a database where people can find different courses, possibilities for internships, job opportunities, and so on in the broad field of radiation protection. We established, to receive all these results, good collaboration, I must say, with HERCA, which are the heads of the European regulatory authorities, regulatory and competent authorities, the Article 31 group of experts in Luxembourg, the IAEA, the IRPA organization, and so on. And we also took care of sustainability, very important, all the results. The project is finished, but the results are still available through the UTURP Foundation. Last but not least, something about EAGLE. EAGLE was not so much on education, training for specialists in the domain, but they concentrated on information and communication. They really pointed out that there was a need for better communication with the public on radiation in general and its benefits and its risks also. They try to enhance public understanding by that would facilitate an informed decision making. In EAGLE, this was specifically coupled to the associated to the concept of risk, but nevertheless, I think enhancing public understanding is a very important thing to do. And they also focused and established two-way communication and joint problem solving. So they refrained from the older, maybe traditional way of one expert saying everything he knows to somebody who is in the other side of the room, but they really gave good practices, shared good practices on how you can better interact and have two-way communications. Eagle ended and came at the end of Eagle, there were some specific recommendations made for education and training and information. Eagle suggested to support science correspondents and journalists. We already touched upon the category of journalists, with courses and with a sort of science media center, a central place where these correspondents can go to and find the most recent information. They also advised to stimulate as much as possible citizen science, attract and also involve the citizens with the nuclear science that you are doing. The biologists, they ask people to count the butterflies and the flowers in their garden. Environmentalists ask citizens to put little detectors to measure air quality on their windows. So why wouldn't we in the nuclear sector ask people to participate to the research that we are doing? And then as a third, last point there, they also advised to start very early. Go already, not concentrate on high schools 5-6 years, but really go to the lower ages and already to those young guys, really young pupils and young kids, inform them about what science in general can be, and later on what the specialization in nuclear could mean. So in conclusion, actions to maintain the exemplary record in nuclear activities that we have for the moment come down to informing the public, educate students and train professionals. The Commission supports many projects to achieve these goals. We have discussed only those in those 3 areas that I already mentioned. And I would like to close off this presentation with some recommendations, some points of attention, some take-home messages, or finally take to the coffee break messages. I apologize for holding you up from your coffee break. First point of attention is that the education and training that we provide towards the learner should be of high quality. The learner deserves the best possible education and training. That means that content-wise, there should be really a connection with the most recent results in research, the most recent legislation, but also, it's not on the slide, also the connection with what is needed nowadays and in the future years in industry. There should be constant updates because science and technology is moving so fast, so also our training programs should be adapted, and you cannot afford, like maybe in the old days, to give 10 years the same course. Sorry for that. Attention should also be given to the trainers themselves, not just the content, but also help those who are training to do that in the best possible way, so that they can adapt their tools, their teaching methods to the target public and address all stakeholders. There should be also more focus on sustainability and also retrievability of project outcomes. If I prepared this presentation, if I did not connect personally with the coordinators of the project, I could almost not find information on these projects. That's really a pity. So that's a point of attention. So much work is done, but it's not outside, let's say, the closed community of those people who actually worked on the project. And then, of course, information exchange and collaboration between different projects should really be stimulated. We are all dealing in education and training with the same basic thing. It's transfer of knowledge. And whether that is in geological disposal or in nuclear engineering or any other really difficult topic is maybe of a secondary order importance in this case. So if we can work together and share our best practices in the training itself, in the concepts, in the policy making around it, I think we can really benefit from each other and be more efficient and produce more. Okay, with this I want to stop the presentation. Thank you.
Very much, Michèle. Do we have questions, comments, please?
Just to comment about what you say about maybe the teachers not being the best someone sometimes at delivering the content to the students. I fully agree with you. There is a big shift in tertiary engineering education about having students in focus, I mean students learning in focus, trying to make sure that the students digest the content in the best possible manner and to try to adjust your pedagogy so that you make sure that this happens. So it's not a thing which is specific to nuclear, but I think nuclear should also adopt new pedagogical approaches so that we have the best students getting the best knowledge, because there are not so many students left.
Probably we will close on this note that we really need to enlarge not just training courses, but also tools. Thank you very much. Thank you.